Keeping Up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure. I am your host, Lonnie Jones. My wife Jackie and I moved to the city of Huntsville in 1986 for me to be a youth and family minister. I have been a minister since 1980. I have served in this community as a police chaplain assigned to a SWAT team since 1992, and I've been in private practice as a licensed professional counselor since 1998. I'm also an adventure educator and an avid outdoorsman. I dabble in rock climbing and I goof around with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Our life has been full of many wonderful experiences and some just outright adventures. I used to write about those things in a little church bulletin article. So now instead of asking you to read those things, we're just going to talk about them in our podcast. And as we talk about them, we're going to talk about the facts. The facts lead to concepts, and the concepts lead to application. One caveat about the facts is, for the most part, we're going to tell you the facts just as they happened. But every now and then, we're going to tell you the way other people have told us they remember it happening with a little bit of embellishment. It's all good, clean fun and for educational purposes. Thank you for listening, and we hope you enjoy Keeping Up with Jones. Faulkner University announces a 60% tuition discount for members of the Church of Christ. Now, there are some guidelines. This 60% tuition reduction is applicable to adult undergraduate Bible degrees or graduate Bible degrees from the Curley Graduate School of Theology in the VP Black College of Biblical Studies. You must satisfy all admission requirements and maintain satisfactory academic progress. You must remain continuously enrolled, including summers, until the completion of the degree. You must provide a letter from an elder or minister, preferably on church letterhead, verifying that you're an active member of a Church of Christ congregation prior to your initial enrollment. This offer applies to adult undergraduate degrees such as biblical studies, youth and family ministry tracks, and it also includes graduate degrees. And those are the Master of Arts in Biblical Studies, the Master of Arts in Family Life Ministry, or a Master of Theology, and it also applies to the PhD in Biblical Studies. For undergraduate inquiries, please contact Adult Enrollment, 334-386-7140, 334-386-7140, or Adult Enrollment at Faulkner edu. That is Adult Enrollment at faulkner.edu. For graduate inquiries, please call 334-386-7539, 334-386-7539. Graduate enrollment at faulkner.edu. That is graduate enrollment at faulkner.edu. Faulkner University is a sponsor of Keeping Up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure. TKM Incorporated in Moss, Tennessee is a construction company that specializes in erosion control, seeding, and soil, hydroseeding, hydromulch, minor excavation, and silt fence. They also provide traffic control and construction signs. Their business is keeping people safe, but their passion, their mission, is they wish that all men could be saved. TKM has adopted the nickname the King's Men because as they serve you, they also serve the King. If they could provide any of their services for you, please contact them at 931-243-3958. That is 931-243-3958. Or you can contact them on the net at tkminc2001 at twlakes.net. That is tkminc2001 at twlakes.net. TKM Incorporated is a sponsor of Keeping Up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure. Dumbo the elephant had a friend named Timothy Q. Mouse, and Timothy Q. Mouse introduced Dumbo to the magic feather. I had a Peachy. No, he wasn't a stuffed animal. and he wasn't an imaginary friend. My favorite stuffed animal was a little dog named Peachy Pie, but that's a different deal entirely. Peachy was a lineman for the football team. He was a big husky lineman. In fact, he was the opposite, the antithesis of me. I was a scrawny little kid. I was 4'11", maybe weighed 145 pounds, and Peachy played line for the Oxford Yellow Jackets. His real name was Mike Finch, but because of a failed attempt to grow some chin whiskers, either Mike Dean or Sammy Haynes began to call him Peach Fuzz, and eventually it got shortened to Peachy. He wore number 78, and he played football for Coach Bill Burgess back in the day. I can't tell you a single stat. I don't know if he was first string or all county. All I know is that he reluctantly listened to me. And I don't mean reluctantly listened to me for advice. I mean, he just reluctantly tolerated me and listened to me. I mean, he listened to weirdness and random dumb kid stuff. I was younger than him. I was a junior high student. He was a senior high student. But because of his interest in me, he created a feeling in me where I felt cool. He called me Lonz. I had recently acquired the nickname Lonzo. It had been awarded to me by Sammy Haynes, but had been shortened and popularized by a beautiful cheerleader named Carrie Kelly. Sammy used it as an insult. I flirted with some of the girls that Sammy flirted with, and although I wasn't any competition for Sammy, he was older. He was my brother's age, and he could drive. He was just super, super cool, but he called me El Lonzo D. Ugly. It was his version of teasing me, and we were good friends, and he liked to pick on me. But Carrie just called me Lonzo. And her mom, Carol Kelly, was the most popular English teacher in the entire known universe. And one day in her English class, she upped and called me Lonzo out loud in front of other students. And Miss Kelly had called me that, and it spread, and it stuck. I officially had a nickname. Now, Peachy would go a step further and call me Lonz, or call me the Lonz. When we were in school, there was a popular sitcom called Happy Days, and there was this character on it called Author Fonzarelli. And Fonzarelli was sometimes called Fonzie, but more often than not, he was simply called the Fonz. And he was this super enigmatic character in a black leather jacket and a white T-shirt and mirrored sunglasses who rode a motorcycle. And he started out with, being this disreputable character, but he became basically the beloved superhero of the whole system, of the whole series. And Arthur Fonzarelli was this super cool character, and he was called the Fonz, and Peachy had piled it on by calling me the Lonz. I'd walk up to him, and he'd go, the Lonz. I'd be walking around the hallway, and he'd see me, and he'd shout out, it's the Lonz. He would listen patiently to me as I followed him around the church building before services. I'd get there early. He'd get there early. I'd find him. He would give me the Lonz introduction and ask me what was going on, and I'd begin to tell him. I'd begin explaining my latest imagined game, my latest imagined adventure. I would introduce him to the latest character I was drawing, and I'd follow him around and tell him all these things, and he'd listen to me. He'd even act like he was intimidated by me if in some situation at a youth gathering or something, I would imitate the Fonz and snap my fingers. He would act like, that had some effect on him. He was easily twice my size. He was a grade or two above me. He had absolutely no reason to fear me. But for whatever reason, he tolerated me, and he tolerated my early adolescent weirdness, and just simply showed me some strange positive attention. Jackie and I recently visited some friends. They have a beautiful lake house down on Logan Martin Lake, and we were visiting Halo and Rhonda Fernandez. And Halo and I had gone down to the dock early in the morning fishing. Now their neighbors had a son, and this neighbor's son was on the opposite bank, and he was fishing, probably in the neighborhood of 14 years old. He was up early out by himself like all dedicated fishermen. And so we were all just kind of standing there talking back and forth about the baits we were using and what was happening. And, he was feeling like a real professional fisherman because Halo was talking to him about all things fisherman. Well, the next morning we got up, and before the sun came up, I'd walked down to the dock to fish. And And now there are two boys and a younger boy. And the two older boys, they look like your typical really cool young men. They're, in their pastel summer colors with their gingerbread brown skin. And they have the look of boys who are used to living on the lake and they know what they're doing with fishing. But they're being followed around by this little guy. And it was the noise that got my attention. I was walking down to the dock to fish, and I saw these guys coming down with their fishing gear. But I heard this noise, just this kind of just a track of just constant noise. Well, that noise got my attention. I looked up, and it was either this younger brother or a young cousin visiting them, and he was following these older boys around. And as they fished, he talked. And as they walked, he talked. He talked while they fished. He talked while they walked. As they started walking back to the house, he was talking to them. And I noticed they were outpacing him. And they were purposely, intentionally walking faster and putting some distance between him and this boy. But he didn't seem to notice. And he talked the entire time. I glanced up just in time to see the older boys walking away and the younger one in tow just babbling. And I thought about Peachy. and it dawned on me. I was the annoying, blabbering 900 super zillion words a minute kid. And Peachy was this older guy from school who was in our church youth group who walked through the classrooms and through the hallway behind the baptistry and around the door that opened into the small porch onto the parking lot. And he was walking away from me, not with me, while I talked to him. He was walking, and I thought he was listening, but probably he was really just trying to get away. And he could have gotten away. He could have simply stopped walking and said, "Go away." He could have simply looked at me and said, "Shut up. No one's interested." He could have said, "Stop bothering me. The things you're talking about are stupid and you're a stupid little kid." But he never, ever did. He listened. And he acted like he understood the random stuff. And he acted like the stuff that was random was interesting to him. He acted like he got it. And tried politely to get away. He was calling me Lonz. And his nickname was Peachy. I'm not sure that's the coveted nom de guerre for a guy who played line for the Oxford Yellow Jackets under Bill Burgess. But he was very comfortable with who he was. He was very comfortable with who he was not. He was apparently so comfortable enough with his own status that he could let me borrow some of his comfort. In those days, one could not just simply approach a group of football guys. But as a little freshman, I could if Peachy was with them. Man, I remember those dudes, they looked like superheroes. They'd wear those varsity jerseys in the hallway on game day. They'd stand about in clusters. And if I walked by them, Peachy would say, "Hey, what about it, Lonz? Hey, guys, it's the Lonz." And all these other guys would turn and look at me. And here's this 4'11" kid that Mike Finch treated like he was a friend. Now, Sammy had been trying to tease me with the name. But Peachy turned it into something that was really, really cool. He didn't make me cool. And I wasn't cool in the aspects of like you think of. I didn't have a sports car, and I wasn't a sportsman. But the thing that Peachy did was he made me feel valuable. I would carry the name Lonzo all the way into college. In fact, in college, I would only be known as Lonzo. There were people who didn't know my name was Lonnie, and a lot of people didn't even know I had a last name. It was just Lonzo. I had this cool. I was one of those single name people when I was in college. And the way Peachy treated me, it felt like I was worth something. And then that feeling he gave me, it's not a feeling he created in me, but he awakened it. You see, a football player and a cheerleader and an English teacher called me Lonzo. And somehow it worked like a magic feather. You see, Dumbo could always fly. He just didn't know it or didn't believe it. He didn't know it and he didn't believe it until a mouse made him imagine that he could do it, that this would work. And Peachy wasn't trying to make me feel special or create something. He was just so comfortable being Peachy that he could share some of that comfort with an annoying little kid who probably needed it and didn't even realize it. Peachy was not a psychologist. Peachy was just that. He was just simply genuine. He was not a hero, but he wasn't a bully. And he was not overtly kind. He was just never cruel. He thought I was cool. I was 62 years old, standing on a boat dock with Halo Fernandez when I realized he didn't think I was cool. He thought I was annoying. I wasn't cool. I was pestering, and I was annoying. But he treated me as if he thought I was cool. And I began to feel that way. I began to believe it. And I began to act that way. Can you imagine the power that we could have in someone's life if we gave a gift like that to just one person? Oh, it'd be great if we could give it to everybody we met, but if you could just give it to one person. And I'm not talking about some type of manipulation where we sculpt someone into a false image and set them up for disappointment. I'm not suggesting that we help them create a delusional version of themselves like in The Emperor Wears New Clothes, but I'm just simply suggesting that we give a valuable gift of value to someone. We give the valuable gift of time and attention. If we take the time to stop and look into people and see what they may not be able to see or maybe even not able to imagine about themselves. And maybe it wasn't intentional. Maybe it was just Mike Finch being entertained by the strangeness of a train wreck of a kid with too much imagination and no filter on his mouth. But more likely, it was just Mike Finch being Mike Finch. And Mike Finch just being genuine and helping Lonnie Jones become Lonnie Jones. Now, it didn't help Lonnie become Lonzo. Now, probably at the time, I would have told you that Lonnie and Lonzo were two different people. One was a secret identity and one was an alter ego. No, they weren't different. They were the same dude. It's just that Lonzo sounded different when Miss Kelly said it in class, or when Carrie called me that in front of the cheerleaders, or when Peachy acted like it made a difference. And when they said Lonzo, Lonnie began to act differently. I imagined that difference in title meant I was valued or loved or liked or cool or special or needed or whatever it was that I heard when they used that word. And I wonder what's the word, what's the title, what's the name you could give someone else to make them think about themselves differently. Paul will simply call Timothy a servant of God. The servant of God, a man of God. Paul will call Timothy that dozens of times in his writings. And he'll call Timothy servant of God or man of God. And just that different picture of how you see yourself or how you're seen by other people. And maybe all this difference in me, maybe it was what Peachy hoped I'd imagined when he said it. But whether it was intentional or not, Mike Finch, Peachy, was not an imaginary friend. There was nothing about him that was imaginary. He had a legitimate kindness, and his simple patience and kindness were transformative. And then he got this little weird, odd kid to believe in himself, that which Peachy helped me to just simply imagine. Using the tool of shortwave radio, World Christian Broadcasting literally covers the world every day with the gospel. They use two large curtain antennas. One is located in Anchor Point, Alaska, and the other in Madagascar. They send out messages that are recorded at their international home in Franklin, Tennessee. They make available 40 hours of broadcast every day. The broadcasts are made in English, Chinese, Russian, Spanish, Portuguese, Korean, English for Africa, and Arabic. They would love for your group to visit them. You can bring your ladies group, your youth group, or your men's group. Just give them a call at 615-371-8707. 615-371-8707, or you can go to 3W's and a dot, worldchristian.org, find the donate here button, and make a financial contribution to support this work that literally covers the world every day with the gospel. World Christian Broadcasting, in cooperation with Keeping Up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure.